WABC-TV meteorologist Lee Goldberg, and this is Wake Up Weather on ABC7NY and For Weather or Not, sponsored by TD Bank. Well, a stranger in the sky, first raindrops in over 2 weeks. Not much measurable in New York City, but at least broke the bone dry stretch. And we have to watch out for the occasional slick spot here and there when we get these showers here because of all the oils and greases that have been trapped in the pavement for so long. So just be aware of that. If you run into wet weather, take it extra slow around those turns. Now we'll have a few more drops to forecast over the coming days, and I think the wettest window will be second half of Wednesday, maybe into a part of Thursday where it's still showery. Rainfall amounts are very tricky to forecast. I'll have more on that in just a moment. In terms of the tropics, we'll be waiting for Helene to form, and this is likely headed into either the Florida Panhandle or Big Bend area of Florida as we go into the day on Thursday. This could very well be a major hurricane at that point. We have little or no influence from that storm here. Maybe some high clouds start to come our way, but overall high pressure to our north and east will be keeping that storm suppressed to the south. Rip current risks are an issue here with our continuing onshore flow. Although our coastal flood threat is diminishing, we actually had some tidal flooding on the Hudson near Poughkeepsie, and all of those impacts are starting, where threats are starting to wind down. During the day on Tuesday, because we had a little upper level disturbance come through and spark those showers on Monday, that's departing enough. There might be enough drying coming out of the northeast that we actually have some breaks in the clouds on Tuesday, a mix of sun and clouds, and then the clouds may tend to fill in with another disturbance starting to approach during the afternoon. I can't even rule out a stray sprinkle, and it will also be rather breezy, and temperatures are likely to spend most of the day in the 60s, so kind of a cool day. Nothing but a stray shower as we go through Tuesday night, but by Wednesday morning, some showers with a frontal system are likely to approach our northern and western suburbs, and then as the day goes on, the threat for showers likely to increase, and our evening commute could actually be a little damp, especially from the city westward, and during the Wednesday night hours, we could have some showers. If there is a window where the rain could get a little heavier, that may be later Wednesday night into the first part of Thursday as that warm front wants to lift through. That actually lifts through, and while clearing is still in question on Thursday, I think we're going to have more of a westerly component to the wind, and we should get warmer and more humid into the 70s. If we can break the sun out a little bit in the afternoon, maybe mid and upper 70s, not out of the question. At that point, though, we're watching Helene in the afternoon hours, and that's likely to make landfall again along the Florida Panhandle and the Big Bend. I'll get to the track in a moment. But what happens is that interacts with a front that's sitting over the mid-Atlantic. There'll be some very heavy rain over the Carolinas into the Tennessee Valley, in places like Atlanta. But because high pressure is building in here from Canada in the northeast, that's going to suppress that storm to the south. I could certainly see how some high clouds come our way and maybe filter the sunshine into Friday and maybe even into part of the weekend, but overall, little to no impact. The only thing is as that storm kind of rains itself out over the middle of the country, and there might be another piece of the mid-Atlantic coast, we've got high pressure building over northern New England. That could make for a breezy start to Saturday, at least to start, and a mix of clouds and sun that day, so it could be a cooler start. It does look like we'll actually warm up into the weekend and especially into next week. Now, how about rainfall amounts from this frontal system coming in? So we're not making a tropical connection, but can we get some decent rainfall? The initial look at our computer model and our futurecast in-house doesn't show all that much, some higher totals over the Poconos and Catskills, but the verdict's still out on that, or the jury's still out on that, because you can see some of our global models are indicating, we could get some healthy rainfall from this. The window for that, again, would be Wednesday night into early Thursday, so we'll keep that in mind. I think the heavier amounts are going to be off to the north and west. I don't think you're seeing the 1 inch plus amounts that were indicated by one of the models, but could we get half an inch of rain across parts of the area? Not out of the question. So that big trough or dip in the jet stream that's through the middle of the country is what's helped steering future Helene to go into the Florida Panhandle or Big Bend area. And there's also high pressure off the East Coast, and that, again, is going to make it basically take more of a left-hand turn into the middle of the country, maybe get absorbed into that upper low rather than the storm coming northward. And if you notice, Friday into the weekend, we've got our flow basically, coming out of the west-northwest into early next week. Some of that mild air that's over the western half of the country could actually take the scenic route and come over the top, and we actually have a nice little warming trend into next week before a cold shot may start to come in toward the latter half of next week into the 3rd or 4th of October, believe it or not, as we flip the calendar to October. But overall, at least what the Climate Prediction Center is suggesting here is more of an above normal pattern for the final day of September into early October. There may be some adjustment, though, when we go toward the 4th of the 6th, given that new look of maybe a trough coming back into the northeast and some cooler air. So maybe that's more through the 3rd and 4th, and then by the time we get to the 5th and 6th, we've got a little colder shot coming in. But right now, above normal with the Climate Prediction Center. We'll watch that trend through the week. You can see just in the 10-day trend, after we get through the unsettled showery stretch middle of the week, we're going to get back into the 70s. Should be a really nice stretch of weather starting Friday into the upcoming weekend and maybe even early next week. And you can see now that dip in temperature is actually realized and indicated on our 10-day trend, with the 2nd being 70 and 69 degrees on the 3rd of October. The drought monitor. So, I mean, we're talking about these opportunities for rain, but really not a lot of rain, which is very interesting over the weekend. If you kept up with the weather around the northeast, where we were having some choppy seas and the occasional shower that was reaching the east end of the island, that offshore low was dumping over a half-foot of rain, Cape Cod and the islands, and an inch or two in the Boston area, and we didn't get a stitch of that. We were just in and out of clouds and breezes and rough surf and some coastal flood issues. So our drought situation, especially across southern New Jersey, has really not been helped at all, and of course we're way below average. In fact, Central Park, with just under a quarter inch, is almost 3 inches below average, and that's pretty typical across the entire area. For the year, our surplus has been shrinking and shrinking, and our reservoir levels, they were running 3-4% above normal average levels, but now it's only 1.5%, so, or 1.6%. So we need the rainfall at this point, not only for our topsoil, but for our water supply, and our foliage could suffer a little bit too. I'll talk about that in a moment. In terms of the precipitation trend, later September into the first week of October, trending normal to slightly above normal. Rain chances again this week. Although we could see a sprinkle on Tuesday and a shower during the day on Wednesday, I think the higher chances are later day Wednesday into Wednesday night and early Thursday, and then those rain chances will taper off as we go into the upcoming weekend. The foliage. Okay, so we're seeing some low to even moderate color in northwest New Jersey, Hudson Valley, basically in northwest Ulster counties, we're seeing some decent color. And of course, you have high color in the Adirondacks and the Green and White Mountains of New England. So that's the current status. But what's happened now with this recent dry stretch is that we were really on pace September, through mid-month to have a brilliant fall foliage season. But this recent dry stretch may have stressed the trees out a little bit. So we may not only get some leaf drop, but even the change that we're going to be seeing over the next few weeks, is it going to be short-lived and we get sort of a burst of good color, but then the trees drop the leaves a little faster. So we'll have to watch. That's the trend. The overall 7-day forecast is to see peak color in the mountains, some decent color here in the Catskills. Should look really beautiful as we go to the upcoming weekend. And outside of the urban areas, we're going to start to see, you'll definitely notice there's more widespread color across the Hudson Valley and northwest New Jersey. I mean, not that we're seeing 50% color yet, but maybe anywhere 30-40% color as you go through our northern western suburbs, and really nice color in the Catskills and Poconos. All right, let's get to the tropics right now. So we watch this disturbance that's definitely looking more organized over the Caribbean, and it's headed for the Gulf of Mexico. So potential tropical cyclone 9 is going to bring a 2-foot storm surge. Places like Cuba, this hurricane watch is up for Tulum. And this is likely a storm that will be named Helene as we go through the morning hours on Tuesday. And then it goes through an area which we've seen so many storms historically, like Wilma, for instance, just ramp up in intensity in the very warm water in the southern Gulf of Mexico. And it makes a turn where we're looking anywhere from Panama City to Tampa in the overall cone. So it's probably a landfall somewhere either on the Panhandle or more likely on the Big Bend here, which, I mean, just look at the way the land is oriented, almost like a catch basin for big-time storm surge. So we'll be concerned about very heavy rainfall, storm surge, flash flooding. The storm goes inland, soaks places like Atlanta, kind of takes more of a left turn into the Ohio River Valley. So we're really not impacted by it, other than to say maybe some high clouds spray our way. So all the beneficial rainfalls. We'll be going through actually some high drought areas here across places like southern Ohio and into parts of southern West Virginia as well. One other disturbance that we'll be watching off the African coast, there is a chance that could develop into our next tropical depression or storm. In fact, there are a couple of ways, but they look like they're going to recurve into the Atlantic. So even if we get, let's say, Isaac, it doesn't look all that threatening. There is a more formidable threat, maybe around the 3rd of October. Could we have another system approaching the Lesser Antilles? We'll be watching that closely for you. Sea and sand forecast for us, east-northeast wind 10 to 20, waves 4 to 6 feet. The rip current risk is high. Once we leave this window where we've had these elevated rip currents and it's rather dangerous, obviously we're leaving the beach time of year. We'll probably suspend the sea and sand forecast, but I do want to keep it up while we have this sort of applicable rip current risk, which can be dangerous for you if you're trying to sneak in bonus beach time, although I don't have a lot of great beach weather to tell you about. Air quality is going to be good. UV index will be at a 3 on your Tuesday. If you're doing some travel during the day on Tuesday, we do have some showers off to the west, maybe some delays. Places like Cleveland over to Detroit may have some delays. Driving westward, got some wet roadways out I-80. In the middle of the country, little quieter. Again, maybe some minor delays in Chicago. Still some decent summer heat across the middle of the country. I mean, the Dakota is still topping out in the mid-70s, so that's where the heat is, and the west is looking nice and quiet. The next system hasn't made it to the Pacific Northwest by tomorrow. So for us, 7 in the morning on your Tuesday, upper 50s, lower 60s, kind of a coolish feel. Should be mostly cloudy, but there will be some breaks of sun. I think clouds will definitely dominate during the day on Tuesday. It's rather breezy and cool. There might be a stray sprinkle around. Best chance of that off to the west. Most of us are dry during the daylight hours, nothing more than a passing shower. Tomorrow night, there's a shower around, but I think the best chance is actually late night off to the north and west. Here's your 7-day AccuWeather forecast. So all of a sudden, don't forget the umbrella as we go through midweek. Showers are more likely Wednesday afternoon, Wednesday night, and into the first part of Thursday. There's a chance we could dry things out in the afternoon hours and see some breaks. At the very least, it should be warmer and more humid, about 75. We're back to beautiful on Friday. I just think that we'll have more high cloudiness off to the south. That's the northern periphery of Helene, inland over the southeast. On Saturday, little breezy, especially in the morning hours, but comfortable. Sun and clouds, 73. Sunday looks nice and more beautiful weather as we go into early next week. That's your AccuWeather forecast is shaping up. You can always have your weather information on ABC-7NY. Thanks for listening to Weather or Not. We'll see you next time, rain or shine.